It's v.h.s.x. What do you mean?
Alright everybody, welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're reacting and having a discussion about a video from OwlsFTA titled Dead by Daylight's 2v8 sums up everything wrong with behavior. Now, I initially was going to want to talk about 2v8 on its own video, but considering this popped up, I was actually interested in hearing what kind of points are being made about 2v8, considering that just recently, not even a day ago, the time recording, the 2v8 dropped and was unplayable for multiple hours as it released. And believe it or not, now we still have more issues with 2v8. Believe it or not.
Apparently, now, I should preface this by saying I think accessibility is good. Obviously, I don't want anybody with accessibility issues to be hindered by the game or hurt by the game, especially physically. But fog vials, when you're saying that it's messing with your sensory, that's the point of them. They have audio sensory distortion and visual sensory distortion. That's literally the point of a fog vial. And they were real quick to destroy that. I mean, it's a completely useless item now. And the keys and the maps that they changed recently, well, those are useless still too. So
I do disagree. I think fog vials are exactly where they should have been, in my opinion. Completely disagree with that. I think fog vials are in a good spot because they did not need like an infinite charge. They did not need like visibility to be that difficult to see through. They did not need the capability to just completely hide every single like point of information that you have as a killer, because it hides auras as well. It hides sound, it hides scratch marks, it hides everything. So it's like you're taking away literally everything and you're infinitely just spawning that thing over and over and over, making it difficult for people with not only sight issues, but then people just in general playing the game are struggling to see through it. Which we've already, like I've said, I've shown off evidence in my quiet kills video. I've even my own clips that I've experienced. You can't even see 2 inches in front of you. Like, what are you talking about? And the range was really ridiculous too. I think it's in a good spot now. The item should have started that way. It should have stayed where it is now is where it should have been. Because now it's actually, in my opinion, more tactical. You can actually use the thing to hide your auras that are having to bring distortion, or you can use it to try to be able to cut off a line of sight or an angle or something like that. I think people are just not understanding the utility of it. But people are I think just a lot of people are just very used to just kind of popping it in people's face to try to hide themselves in front of the killer in chase, when in reality it could have been used a lot more strategically to around corners and things like that to try to throw people off and try to gain more distance, which is the entire point when you're playing Survivor. So I have to disagree with that completely.
if you had any hope that survivors weren't going to bring BNPs or syringes or whatever, they're not going away anytime soon. But the ghoul and all of
I will say though, I don't think that a smoke bomb is going to change the frequency of brand new parts, med kits, or whatever have you. Those items, toolboxes, and med kits are objectively some of the best items in the game, and you will always be able to use them. So it's a no-brainer that people bring those items. That make it, you just by having another item as an option doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to automatically change the name of the game and everybody's going to start using different things. That's just not how it works. Maybe in the first day, like when it comes out, maybe within the week or so, it'll probably start to level out and no one brings it anymore because they're like, well, that was cool and all, but back to medkit, back to toolbox, because it just has more uses. So I completely disagree with that as well. And I think that there was a vast majority of players that realized that the fog vial was ridiculous, and then I'm pretty sure now they're not using it because it was so ridiculous. I've even seen comments that said, oh, it's got nerfed, I'm not using it anymore. And it's like maybe you shouldn't have been using it then. If you have this crazy reliance on it, maybe you shouldn't have been using it then. For the requirement for it to be insanely ridiculous for you to be able to use it is ridiculous. To me, at least, I think you should just be playing with whatever you want to use because it's fun or interesting. But the fact that you can only use it because it's broken, ridiculous. But regardless, I completely disagree with that, with the point being made there as well. I just don't think that it's that big of a deal, you know. I think that the fog vials still have uses. I still think that they still have a place. It's not like they're completely pointless at this point. That makes no sense. Just because you can't use it the same exact way as you used it before does not make it completely useless.
His nonsense, Kaneki. Yeah, no, we have to. It's gonna take time. We have to take our time. Oh, the clown that like.
Which I also want to mention though, Kaneki has been nerfed, I think, twice now. I don't understand what more they want from Kaneki at this point. I don't understand what they're asking for. Like, you already got the character's already been nerfed twice. And in my opinion, they're way better off now than you could say than they were on release. I think on release they had very, very far range. They had like a very strong hit scan and stuff like that. But for some reason, they're still crying for nerfs, and I'm like, I just don't get it. Like, I just don't understand it. I mean, I don't think Kaneki is that ridiculous. Maybe it's because of the frequency of people sort of going up against Kaneki, but at this point, that's not really a killer player issue. That's more of a game issue. A lot of people either enjoy playing the character, or they feel like they are unable to play other characters to actually have fun in the game at this point, because as we've spoken about many times, there has been a gen speed issue. There's a healing meta going on as well, which Kaneki thrives in, by the way, because he's able to injure very quickly, so you're able to at least keep up when it comes down to that, compared to low tiers like Skull Merchant, Trapper, Ghostface, or if you're talking C tiers, like Pig and stuff like that. Like, these characters are going to struggle even more against a healing meta that we're already in right now. And then obviously the mangled and hemorrhage effects are not as strong, so we can't even sort of deal with that. The healing perks have been buffed extensively, so that already gives people more incentive to want to try out those perks, which then leads into more of the healing meta occurring. Obviously, then the numerous bugs on killers. So I mean, you want to gravitate to characters that are a bit less buggy, honestly, and you want to gravitate to characters that are not weak at this current point. So if that is the issue, then I think that's more of a problem with the game's balancing. It's not really has to do with the character per se, because you can keep on nerfing the character, but then they'll just shift to a new character. They'll just shift to Blight or Nurse or something like that. So it's like nerfing is not gonna solve the problem. Nerfing the killers is not gonna solve the problem, is my point.
It's the only asim horror game, so in that respect, it makes sense why DBD still is around. But it's even worse than that. This game has the Smash Bros problem, where every time a new platform fighter comes out, it doesn't matter how good it is or how fun it is or how much community backing.
I have to slightly disagree. Like, the Nickelodeon All Star Brawl was just not a great game from what I've understood. Very, very just like not well received from what I've heard. I barely heard reception about it, even in general, when it dropped. It was just a flop on release. And with Multiversus, when it came to Multiversus, like it was starting to get up and up, right? Well, like the beta release, a lot of people were pretty excited. There might have been a contender for Smash Brothers that didn't have to be tied to just Nintendo. And Multiversus is on all platforms, so it had a good foundation to be great. But then the developer team directly just did not do the right moves. They didn't add any good characters. They just actively were not really like, they changed the way the game was functioning from beta to like live release. So that in itself already killed the game on release, because people love the fast-paced gameplay that the original came with, the beta I should say came with. And then when they decided to slow it down and then do all these things, and then all the characters they kept releasing were terrible and a ton of monetization problems, developer issues and things like that, people just didn't want to play it anymore. They were done. The grinding was ridiculous too. They were done. So that isn't necessarily accurate to what is occurring with these two games, and to say that it is the Smash Brothers problem. I wouldn't say that just because Smash is such a titan that it completely just invalidates everybody else's game. And then if we're even talking about DBD, we had multiple ASIMs that just were not doing very well. I mean, we had Friday the 13th that unfortunately had the legal issues within the license holders with Friday the 13th and Jason Voorhees and things like that. So that already killed the game. That wasn't the fault of the game itself, and that wasn't the fault of DBD. Then we could talk about Killer Clowns from Outer Space. That one's another one that was just not great. At least me personally, I already knew that it wasn't going to be well received. I understood that just from watching some gameplay that it was just not going to do very well. They didn't look very engaging. It didn't really look like there was a lot to do. And I also remember that you weren't really able to just load in as the clowns if you wanted to. It was strictly just whatever you get lucky with getting. And obviously TCM is another one, which that also had failed, not because of DBD either, but because of the developers were just actively making bad decisions that were not good for the health of the game. They were actively trying to tell people how to play their game and trying to sort of I forget the intricacies, but I understand that the developers were just not doing the game any favors, and the game died out because of the fact that they were not releasing any content. They were not doing anything to keep the game fresh, and when they did add content, it just wasn't that impactful. So there were other ASIMs. Even I think it was Video Horror Society. That's another game that was also an ASIM. That game died as well too because of the developers. They actively decided to favor the victims so heavily that the killer players just completely were not incentivized to play at all. And that is a bit of an issue that DBD is kind of suffering from currently, but maybe not to the same extent, because I know with Video Horror Society, it was a whole nother situation with their balancing. Haven't played the game before, so I can't get into those intricacies, but that's from what we understand as outsiders listening to what happened to these other ASIMs. So completely disagree.
And how much developer money is being thrown at it. People go, oh, Smash better, and they will intentionally kind of, or unintentionally even, sort of sabotage the game, because it's like, oh, you're just a Smash clone. So now every time an ASIM comes out, even if it's a fun game, a cool game, I haven't played any of the other ASIMs, I'll be 100% honest, but the community is like, oh, it's not Dead by Daylight, it's whatever.
So that right there kind of gives us everything we need to know. If you're saying that you haven't played the other ASIMs, then I can't say that you would be able to accurately, give the best assessment for why those games had failed. Now, the idea of saying that it's simply just, oh, it's just everyone calls it a DVD clone, I have to disagree to an extent, because Multiversus was on release sort of considered a Smash clone, but then it was able to kind of shift away from that over time because they had so many different characters that were obviously unavailable on Smash Brothers, as well as also creating a unique sort of gameplay that was able to stray away from the usual Smash Brothers formula and was able to have a name for itself, and at least when the beta was out, because it's also free to play, so it's extremely accessible as well. So that it had a lot of things going for it that was able to allow it to grow. But like I've said before, it wasn't the fault necessarily of the players saying it was a Smash clone, because there was a small community that was growing over time. Now the problem is obviously is that the developers were just not competent enough to make the game function correctly, and their content releases were all terrible, so nobody had any interest. If they were releasing some big name characters from the Warner Brothers license holders, then there probably would have been a lot more people. Like if they included Green Lantern, if they included The Flash, if they included other licenses maybe from like Game of Thrones or other more notable names to add into that game, like even Lord of the Rings and stuff like that, or even Breaking Bad, if you want to go that far, and include that into the game, that would have brought a lot more people on, and that probably would have been allowed the game to really go up and be among the sort of popular platform fighters and stuff like that.
And through that, the game has survived, because even if a game hypothetically in the future was DBD to the T but perfect and had no bugs, people would not jump ship and it would die, because Dead by Daylight's not only the only asim right now that matters, it's also established in the ethos of gaming to the point where everything else is a clone and everything else is just DBD at home.
I completely disagree with that point as well, because I don't think that this game has the notoriety to where everybody just says everything else is a DBD thing. Like, I don't imagine that Dead by Daylight is a household name that everybody really knows about. I think only in recent memory that I've seen it maybe kind of pick up a little bit in pace, but definitely not as popular as other gigantic names that we have nowadays that they could even make those kinds of comparisons. And even when I did see TCM release and I did see Killer Clowns release, I never saw anybody really say that's a DVD clone personally. At least I haven't seen it. So I can't really deny or I guess approve that even occurred, obviously. But from my understanding, obviously, these are also those. I think it was even Friday the 13th, and I think also Killer Clowns from Outer Space were also the same developers. So they just, for whatever reason, made the same exact game twice. I don't know why they did that. So of course that was gonna fail on release. And it was a pretty ambitious to go with a license like Killer Clowns, which I don't imagine Killer Clowns is as popular as other names, especially like Texas Chainsaw. I think has a much higher draw compared to Killer Clowns. But I do think Killer Clowns should be added to DVD personally. That's a whole nother discussion. But either way, that is going to be the end of the video for me. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, comment, subscribe. Check out the original video linked in the description. And let me know what your thoughts in the comment section. While you're down there, there's some ways to support the channel with those links. And I will see you guys in the next video.